Today's video, we're going to be learning about square roots. So what is a square root? Well, first we have to remember to square a number, what that means. So to square a number is basically you're finding the product of a number multiplied by itself, right? So when I say 4 squared, I'm just saying 4 times 4. To find the square root, you're doing the inverse of that. You're doing the opposite operation of squaring a number. So, for example, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. The opposite of adding is subtracting. So the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So to find the square root of a number, you must find the number that is multiplied by itself to get that number. So, for example, the square root of 16 is 4 because 4 times 4 is 16. A perfect square is any number whose square root is a whole number. So with your times tables, you should be able to know the perfect squares, the list of perfect squares. By doing that, what you do is just in your head, okay, let me square every whole number that I know of, right? 0 squared, 0 times 0 is going to be, I'm going to change my pen color here, 0. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4, 16. 5 times 5, 25. All right, I'm going to keep going. 36, 49. 8 times 8, 64. 81. 100. 121. 144. 169. Running out of space here. We'll do it up here. 196 and 225. All right, so that's all the way up through 15 squared. All right, those are my perfect squares. So that means when I square root any of these numbers, you're going to get a nice whole number answer. Anything that's in between here is going to be a non-perfect square, and you're going to get an irrational number. So for example, let me pick a number here, between here, 9 and 16, 10. Square root of 10 is 3.162277. So that's an ugly, long, non-repeating, never-ending decimal. That's an irrational number. It's a non-perfect square, okay? So you're going to get ugly numbers like you saw in the last lesson when we learned about number systems when you square root non-perfect squares. But we could use this chart here to help us estimate where they're at. So we know the square root of 40 is between 6 and 7. Square root of 40 is somewhere here between 6 squared, right? I'm going to say this here. 6 squared and 7 squared. That's where the square root of 40 is. So it's probably going to be 6 point something. I don't know. Let's see. Square root of 40 is 6.32. Yep. So it's between 6 and 7. The square root of 152 is between 12 and 13. This is 12 squared. This is 13 squared. So it's going to be in between those two numbers. So it's going to be probably 12 point something. 152. And it's 12.3. Good. All right. So we're going to get practice today with being able to determine where they're at in the number line and also rounding numbers with decimal place values. I want us to get more practice with our decimal spots. These lovely guys right here, your decimal place value. Okay. The one to the left, right? This right here. If I had this, go this side by side here. The 2 is in the 1 spot. The 1 is in the 10 spot. The 3 is in the tenths. The 2 is in the hundredths. The 8's in the thousandths. Okay. So we're going to get practice with rounding our numbers today also. All right. So let's take a look at number 1, square root of 154. If I put that in the calculator, you get 7.3484. Okay, so I'm going to round this number to the nearest hundredth spot. 7.3. Now, if I look here, the 4 is in the hundredth spot. If I look after, it's an 8. So that bumps it up to a 5. So it's 7.35. Do this in purple. That's rounded to the nearest hundredths. Okay. Let's look at a negative one. Let's do this one right here. Negative square root of 98. All right. Now be careful. Actually, we'll do 89. We'll do 89 here. Negative square root of 89. Be careful when you put this in the calculator, because if you do 89 negative, then the square root button, you get an ugly number, because you can't find the square root of a negative. Whenever you multiply a number by itself, you're always going to get a positive number. So you can't square root a negative number. You only could take the negative of the number at the end. So this is totally different than this. So the negative has to be on the outside. So what you have to do in order to do that is 89, the square root button, then take the negative at the end. So we have 9.433, okay? So I'm going to round this number to the nearest 10th spot. So the 4 is in the 10th spot. So what I'm going to do, if I look after the 4, it's a 3. It keeps it the same. So it's just going to be 9.4. Negative, though. Don't forget the negative that goes at the end. All right. Let's look at a bigger number. Let's look at right here, 322. Square root of 322. Put that in the calculator. Wow. All right. So we get 17.94. Okay. So I'm going to round this to the nearest 1,000 spot. So if I look in the 1,000 spot, that's this 4 right here. It's the 3, so it stays the same. So it's 17.944. So if I'm specifying what number, what spot you have to go to, just be aware of that. Because it's good that we know our decimal spots. All right. One last one. Let's do number 14, 364. All right, negative. Remember, so that it's negative. I'm going to round this number to the nearest 10 spot. So that's different than the tenths. Tens and tenths are totally different. The 10 spot is this 1 right here. If I look after, it's a 9. So what does that do? It bumps it up to a 2, and then it changes this number to a 0. So if I'm rounding this number to the nearest 10 spot, it's 20. That's going to be your rounded number. So the 9 bumps up the 1 to a 2, and the 9 changes to a 0. So your answer is going to be 20, not just 20, negative 20. That's if I round it to the nearest tens. So be careful if I ask you what spot to round it to. Use that chart to help you with your decimal values, okay? Now, if you get to a problem like this, which two integers are these in between, okay? square root of 18. So if I look at the square root of 18, that is going to be 4.2426, blah, 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 all that good stuff. That's going to be in between 4 and 5 on the number line. So what I do sometimes is I just draw a little number line. Okay, and it's going to be between 4 and 5. That's where this number is going to lie in between. Let me see, 4.2, so it's probably going to be somewhere right in here on the number line. So it's between 4 and 5 on the number line. Okay, so work through these problems. Make sure you know your decimal spots. If you have questions, let me know. Thank you for watching.